It's a tough business. Probably would see failure more than you would see success. I'll be honest, I didn't start off very passionate about acting because I never wanted to be an actor.
Yeah.
But that's what my grandmother told me also. You don't look like a quintessential quote-unquote hero. I've been to award shows, I've been to the film parties, constantly vying for someone's attention. You get a lot of people like that in our industry. You could stand with a glass in every party, but if you don't, you're not going to last here. You could be best of friends after a Friday box office success, but that relationship could easily crumble if that thing goes on and you have a flop together.
There was a huge phase where it was, you were stereotyped, right?
Yeah.
Like serial kisser,
Yeah.
etc., etc. But
Yeah.
do you think that that has evolved? So is that why you would take like periodic breaks back?
No, that there was a lunch before that where we were sitting in Taj Land's End. We were having a pizza. In a matter of 3 hours, we were sitting in the clinic, hearing things like, "Your son is diagnosed with kidney cancer." We came back home, and it's about play acting and not showing your son. So we had to fight our tears. We actually had to go into a different room.
What did it teach you about life?
Well, it's that old saying, if
What is your idea of love?
we have seen this tumultuous,
Yeah.
turbulent time in our marriage, it strengthens your relationship and your marriage even more. A lot of people will come on board to give you advice, chuck most of it out of the window, because most of the advice anyways comes with a certain agenda. A lot of the critics are very harsh.
Do you remember anything specific?
I was called a monkey. Looked like a monkey.
Bhatt Saab said to you after your first film, "Son, you're at ground zero. यहाँ से बस ऊपर जाना है."
Yeah.
Now you're doing a film called Ground Zero.
Yes. It's a defining moment in our history. And playing an army officer, you have to be cognizant and aware of that responsibility because you're putting someone else's life up there on screen. I'm quite an addictive
Wow.
by nature.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure that's something people didn't know.
Yeah, they don't. I've not spoken too much about it.
Welcome to Humans of Bombay, Emraan.
Thank you so much.
So
Nice
lovely
be
to
here.
see you.
Lovely to see you.
Many a day and night was spent listening to songs from your films. So it's funny to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
But how have you been? How's it going?
Well, it's been quite hectic. I've just been whisked away from my shoot right now for the starting off of promotions of Ground Zero. So
Yeah.
very excited with this. Promotion is a completely different ball game. You got to be, constantly at it to sell your product out there. You first make the film, and then I think more than that, more importantly, you have to market it properly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm here for. And it's great to be doing this interview with you.
How do you feel about Bollywood and everything that's evolved, over the years? Even promotions or how they're done or how much effort it takes?
Well, it's definitely, there's always a lot of effort in promotions, and that is from the first day where I joined the industry. I started off in 2003, and it was quite chaotic back then. I think it's kind of become a little more streamlined right now. Early on, when I started off back in the day for almost 10 years, till 2014, I think, we used to have like 12, 15 city tours, mall visits, store visits, crazy reality shows. So, and right now you would say every film has say a promotion, but it's not fixed, but maybe 10 to 12 days. Earlier we used to have a month of promotions.
That's crazy.
Crazy. Every day I used to be out somewhere in a different city promoting. But it's an important aspect to kind of get. It's become even more testing right now because of the explosion on social media and the number of channels that are out there, OTT. To grab someone's attention in this terrain where everyone is yelling and shouting and vying for your attention, it's become very difficult.
So since 2003 to now, what would you say has been the single largest shift in you?
In me as a person?
Yeah.
I think I've become a lot more calmer.
Okay.
I've learned to take on more responsibilities. Just the function of being young and bratty when I started off when I was 22, 23. And as you progress, marriage, kid, that brings in that certain discipline and responsibility. But that way, I don't think I've changed much apart from those things. I think I'm pretty much the same. If you ask my friends, family, tried not to change much.
How did you ride the waves? You've seen quite a few of them
Yeah.
in the journey, right? Not
Yeah.
just from a career perspective, but even from the health of your son,
Yeah.
or coming back into films,
Yeah.
coming back into the space.
Yeah.
How have you ridden the waves? What's kept that singular anchor in your life?
I think it's the hunger and the challenge to do more work. It's a tough business, and in this business, you probably would see failure more than you would see success.
Yeah.
It's become even more tough right now in the past 5 years with just the state of the film industry and the kind of films and their box office fate. But I think it's that key hunger and to kind of take on challenging roles, to take on something that kind of gives you those nerves that you get on a set and it's a new experience with new people, and you work to try to take and give some shape and form to that character, and then finally seeing that up on screen. I think that's what I live for. I think if you don't live for that, then you won't be in for the long haul. If it's only for the fame, if it's only for the money, these things won't get you far in this industry. You really have to be passionate about what you're doing. And I'll be honest, I didn't start off very passionate about acting because I never wanted to be an actor.
Yeah.
I wanted to do a whole lot of other things, but this profession found me rather than me finding or choosing this profession. And I just, on the journey through the whole process of acting, I've started loving it. I think the first 2-3 years was almost a chore for me because I was not mentally prepared to be an actor, and I was just kind of thrown into the deep end, so to speak. After that, it's something I can't do without. It just makes me tick, and I can't see my life without the madness of going on a film set, promoting a film. That has to be part and parcel of my life.
So, do you believe in destiny?
I think you write your own destiny. I think there is a bit of the small micro choices that you make through the every day that you spend here, that kind of alter and shift destiny and fate. I don't think anything is written in stone, although some people believe. If you believe in astrology and stuff, I believe in astrology also.
Oh, really?
To a certain point, yeah, I do. But I think it's kind of malleable. It is something that through your journey, if you make amends, if you put in the work, you can change your destiny and your fate, and it's constant, it's ever altering. Yeah.
You don't identify, or you don't, at least from the outside, look the stereotypical made to be in Bollywood.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
completely.
Yeah,
completely.
like it just doesn't come across.
That's what my grandma told me also when I was start off becoming an actor. She said, you don't look like a quintessential quote-unquote hero or on-screen hero.
Not even just look, like even the way you are, right? Like it's not very, grandiose and like, I need this macho energy.
Yeah, and constantly vying for someone's attention.
Exactly.
That you get a lot of people like that in our industry. Who
Yeah.
Are that. Yeah.
So then how do you deal with that dichotomy of having to be in a space that demands it, or like where your peers are?
I don't think everyone is like that.
Hi guys, I hope you're enjoying the podcast, but I'm going to stop you here because I've noticed that so many of you watch our podcast but don't subscribe. So please pause this video here and go and hit that subscribe button because it really helps us grow. And with your support, we want to bring you many more fantastic conversations. Thank you. And with that, let's get back to the podcast.
I think ultimately it's your work that you put in. It's not the kind of person that you are. There are exhibitionists in this industry, like there are in any industry. And there are some people who let the work speak for itself. I come from that latter thought process. And I think in this industry is a place for everyone. I don't think there is a kind of person. There's not a particular personality type of an actor or person who can, who's cut out to be an actor or cut out to be a director. I think it's all about the craft. Ultimately, the audience will give you their endorsement only if you are able to move them in that, probably 2 hours or 2.5 hours in that film, in the context of the story and the character. If you have the chops, then you have people who will endorse you as an actor. So.
What about the bureaucracy of it? The bureaucracy surrounding it, where people say that you get it easier if you know people within the industry.
Or I don't believe that.
You don't?
I don't believe that. I think there is one thought process that you have to kind of hobnob. You have to be in the so and so film parties to kind of move up the ladder. I've never done that, so I'm testament to that. I've never done that, and don't get me wrong. It's not like when I started off in the industry, it was me in a discovery phase, and I've tried everything. I've been to award shows, I've been to the film parties, but then you realize that okay, this is your niche, this is what you like doing, and this is not for you.
Yeah.
If that were to get you more work, then probably I would have made amends to kind of at least alter my psyche to do the film parties and the award ceremonies. But it's never about that. It's your relationship with the audience. And that only comes primarily through the films.
Yeah.
And that gets you noticed by people in the industry also. You could stand with a glass in every party, but if you don't have the credentials as an actor, you're not going to last here. So it's ultimately the films, and they're like, okay, this guy knows his job. He brings that element, that X factor, in the characters that he plays.
Yeah.
And that's what I've kept that very professional. I can say that I'm a very professional actor. I'm always there on time. I always give my 500% to the characters that I play, and I give the director, the producer, everything it needs for the film to support the character and the film. So I think that's what's important.
And you think your relationship with the audience who watches you and
Yeah.
basically gives you that pedestal, right? Whether
Yeah.
you go up or down, has evolved over time? Because there was a huge phase where you were stereotyped, right?
Yeah.
Like serial kisser,
Yeah.
etc., etc. But
Yeah.
do you think that has evolved, or do you think somewhere that's
No, it
still
definitely has.
Yeah.
It's an industry where it's about labels. I think when something works, the audience kind of thrusts that label on you, and also the industry that tries to juice that out. And it's at the end of the day, it's about profit, right?
Yeah.
If the audience likes to see you in a particular avatar or an image, they're going to juice it out for you, the industry. And when I started off in 2003, this image lasted almost till 2014, where I was doing a lot of films that were serving that image, and films are doing well, and box office numbers and everything. So I think it all kind of added up. But I think the audience also understood that after a point, it's very important that to understand, it reaches a saturation point. You can't constantly try to kind of milk that same image. It reaches like everything reaches an end.
Yeah.
And it reached an end.
Yeah.
And it was important for me to then start exploring characters, different characters, different genres, because then they would say, "यार वो फिर से वही खिसी पिटी बात दिखा रहे हो आप." And it reached a point where थोड़ा सा हो गया था वो, in that I had to kind of switch course and try to do something different.
So is that why you would take like periodic breaks, where you would not appear for some time and then you would come back?
No, I've never, in a sense, deliberately taken a periodic break. I mean, if you actually compare the number of films that I did right up till 2017, 2018, I was doing probably 2-3 films a year.
Yeah.
But that was another time in our industry. I think right now, the challenge I'm facing is scripts and the kind of scripts that I want to do. The challenge arises when you've done a certain set of characters.
Yeah.
To find a sense of newness in what's being offered to you and not doing the same thing again, you have to be open to constantly saying no. And that becomes a challenge. And that's why you feel there's a bit of a gap. Because you're trying to give the audience something new. The industry is offering you something you've already done because they want to, try to milk that. But you have to be, cognizant to constantly give the audience something new. That's why you feel and also COVID did that, right?
Yeah.
After COVID, you had those 2 years that everything was up in a tizzy. A lot of releases were thrown, release dates were changed. So I think that's why people felt a lot of actors a certain gap in films and their releases.
It's a combination of these things, not just one particular
It's
reason.
not. It's not that. It's not that.
Let's talk about your film. So we dug up a quote that Bhatt Saab said to you after your first film.
Okay.
He said, "Son, you're at ground zero. यहाँ से बस ऊपर जाना है."
Yeah.
Now you're doing a film called Ground Zero.
Yes.
How interesting, and how of course this is about you're playing an army man for the first time.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about it? How do you feel about being here after all those years?
I have to tell you something about that line that he told me. It was because I failed miserably my first day on the film set. Like I just couldn't get the character, and it was like I said, I never wanted to be an actor. And the first day on the set can be so overwhelming. And I kind of succumbed to that feeling on the first day. I was prepped. I was like, everything was, spot on. And it's just then the first time you get the nerves.
Yeah.
I remember messaging him at that time, calling him. And he was like, "Son, it's fine. The best of the best go through this. Now you've hit ground zero. This is the lowest point you can go because you actually are doubting yourself, but don't doubt yourself. Tomorrow is another day. And the only way up from here, from ground zero is up." And the next day was fantastic. It really was. So it was that was one day, and there was a time where I didn't ever think that I would be an actor, and then it's today. 23 years in the industry, 23 years in the industry since then, and it feels like it was just yesterday, those times, but. Yeah, it's been a lot of good experiences in the industry. A lot of good times, heartaches, successes, failures. But it's in the madness of it all. I love it.
So how do you feel about playing an army man, and is there added pressure?
There's a sense of it's a sense of responsibility that comes because a film of this nature, like Ground Zero is, it's one of the most defining moments in the history of our national security, of the way our BSF officers, headed by Mr. Narendranath Dubey, whose character I'm playing in the film, they headed this planned out this operation back in 2001. It's a defining moment in our history. And playing an army officer, you have to be cognizant and aware of that responsibility because you're putting someone else's life up there on screen. So doing it to the best of your ability, getting the key right. At the same time, as a job of an actor is also to make that character, even though it's a realistic take, bring that right dose of entertainment and drama, just with that to that right point where it doesn't look like it's blown out of proportion. So I've had a ball doing it. It's just one of those characters that I've always wanted to play. I've always wanted to play an army man. This I'm playing a BSF officer, and I was really blown away when I heard the real story because I didn't know much about it. I didn't know much about this incident of the encounter of Ghazi Baba in 2003. But the way they had planned it out, it's surreal, and the way they accomplished it in 2003, it's testament to their hard work and resilience, our BSF officers.
And how are you feeling about the release and the promotions? Is it good to be back into the everything of it?
Yeah, it is. Like I said, I love the madness of it.
Yeah.
I love, this is one important aspect of filmmaking. One thing is making that film and doing your best and playing that character. But the other thing is then, of course, you got to take the product and sell it to the audience. And in this environment, when everyone is screaming for your attention, it's become that much more difficult. So you just have to put everything in there to kind of all chips in, to kind of put in all the hard work and stuff. I think I love that challenge of going out there, playing different characters, sitting on a Friday morning twiddling my thumbs at what's going to happen with this film.
Are you going to check social media?
No, I'm not. No. I'm trying. I actually, right now when I put the trailer up, I'm stopping myself to go because they're constantly coming up on my feed.
To check,
I'm blocking it out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel I need to be a little disconnected from that. It was not there 10 years back. I think I was generally a little happier when I didn't engage with it.
Yeah.
And I know when I engage with it, you have it's dopamine, right?
Yeah.
It's constant dopamine hits when
Every
you're constantly
like,
looking
every
at it.
comment.
But there's
like,
also cortisol somewhere in there.
Yeah, of course.
When you go through a
Two sides of
bad
the
comment,
same coin.
you can get 1,000 good comments, and God forbid someone says something about it, and someone is going to say it because everyone's not going to like what you're putting out there.
Yeah.
It's always the bad stuff that stays with you. So to shield myself from that, I'm like, okay, just let it be. Whatever is there, it's great. It's all.
Do you remember reading a nasty comment and being like, what did I do to this person?
Oh yeah, lots of them. A lot of the critics back in the day when I started off acting in 2003, pretty harsh. Pretty harsh. But they used to get pretty personal about stuff. It was not really about, I get when you're trying to break down the craft and criticize a certain performance. When you get specific and personal about someone, it hurts. So.
Do you remember anything specific?
A lot of things. I was called a monkey. Looked like a monkey in one of my critic reviews.
Really?
This was my second film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Someone
did you
said
do?
that.
How did you react?
At that time, I mean, obviously I was new. I was like, why would someone say that?
Yeah.
It's bizarre. That's a
Yeah.
very personal thing, right?
Yeah.
But I was okay. Then it was fine. People I was working with said that they have also been at the receiving end. When I spoke to co-actors, they've said these critics have said similar things to them also. And it's like a critic's job is to criticize. So sometimes they want to make it as flowery or as impactful or whatever. It's all about your tagline that used to sell the headlines back then. Still does, clickbait.
But now we're in a world where everybody's a critic online. You don't need, you can just comment and be like, this is what I think about
Yeah,
it.
now it's the personal opinions of people, right? There have so many people, everyone's a critic.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't just for, if it was first earlier for the 10, 15 critics, now you have 1 million critics online.
Yeah.
And if you go down that rabbit hole of going through the comments, I don't know what your headspace will be, because there'll be some really nasty stuff there.
Yeah.
And some people do that. Some people are addicted to actually knowing what each and every person is saying, because they're trying to get they get that validation from that. I don't source it from that. I think ultimately for me, it's like when I've done the work, I've put a film out there. The box office, yes, is a barometer. Then I've done. Then you can accept it, praise it, trash it, but just I don't want to sit down and start reading personal comments about it.
Okay, so it sounds amazing. Ground Zero. It's out on April 25th in theaters.
Yes.
Which is amazing because everything is such an OTT release now.
Yeah, it's a cinematic release, and it was always up for that.
Yeah.
And it gives this great cinematic experience. It's got the action, the drama, and really at the heart of it has got the emotions and the story of sacrifice of these BSF soldiers.
Yeah.
And it's quite an interesting story.
Yeah, it sounds like a film that you want to watch in the theater.
Yeah, it is. It
Popcorn
definitely is.
Yeah.
It's a wholesome experience.
Okay.
You got everything in it.
So guys, go watch it. It's out on April 25th and it's in theaters, so definitely go watch it. I'll ask you a few more questions.
Yeah.
How has your relationship with faith evolved? You know, especially after your son's diagnosis. How have you been on that front? Have you explored spirituality?
Well, I believe there is something like a supreme being. You might term it as God, Bhagwan, Khuda, whatever. But there is something that's a higher power, something out of our conscious domain. Probably people who are scientists or atheists might feel that, okay, if you don't see it, if you can't quantify it, it doesn't exist. But I beg to differ. I think there's a certain force that functions and governs everything. That's why everything works in this clockwork fashion. And yeah, you would say that I find peace and certain tranquility in meditation. That's my kind of solace and go-to. It's something I discovered and got into probably in 2019 through that whole COVID phase, because we were all cooped up in our homes and there was nothing to do. And it's not like I didn't meditate before that. I did that earlier also, but I just I started doing more of it every day. And it just, like they say, if you've never meditated in your life and you do it for 5 weeks, it can change the chemistry of your brain.
Yeah.
So it gives you that focus, it gives you that sense of calm. So I think I would say that's where I kind of draw that place of spirituality and strength from, that certain calm.
Is that also what gave you the strength when you're, dealing with something as intense as cancer in your life? Is that what pulled you through, or how did you get through that phase?
Oh, that time I used to not meditate, but so
Yeah.
I think that was one very, very chaotic time in all our lives, the entire family, because it was just something that hit us um, out of the blue. There was no particular symptoms, and it just one day you come to
Yeah.
know that your kid was all of at that time 3 years 11 months, is diagnosed with cancer. That was pretty hard for the family, and it was not just that time. I think almost for 5 years after that, it was an ongoing battle.
Yeah.
Because after you treat the cancer, there's also a remission phase.
Yeah.
So there was 6 months of treatment, and thankfully I've had my family to thank for that. Friends were a great support system. My wife, um, it was quite tough. And then of course after the 6 months of the treatment, there was almost 4 years of remission where sometimes the cancers might come back.
Yeah.
So we had to do constant tests. So it was a time that was extremely turbulent, extremely turbulent. And anything that you feel that these are all things in retrospect.
Yeah.
It's just that fight. Then it's just all about fighting. You have to draw things like hope from every day. You got to kind of, with the treatments, with the palliative care and all of that, it all adds up. But it's a tough fight.
Yeah.
It's a really, really tough fight.
And in a moment like this, right, where it's so challenging, especially to watch a loved one go through something like this when you're so young.
Yeah.
Did you ever find yourself questioning why?
That was the first question I think both me and my wife asked.
Yeah.
Us that why us? And then it was like, it's not that. Why anybody? Why would this be wished on anyone? But I think then you're just thrown into the heat of it, and you're there to kind of survive and tackle with what's at hand. It goes by so fast, and there's so much happening.
Yeah.
It could be in the beginning of the treatment and the prognosis, when we were finding out such and such thing. This happened back in 2014. I remember this happened on the 13th of Jan, when the first diagnosis was done. There was a lunch before that where we were sitting in Taj Land Ends and we were having a pizza. And in the matter of 2 hours, everything was turned upside down in our lives.
Yeah.
Like, it was just that first symptom on the table. I was sitting with my wife and we were having a Sunday brunch with my kid. And that first symptom erupted there. And in the matter of 3 hours, we were sitting in the clinic and we were hearing things like, your son is diagnosed with kidney cancer.
Oh my God.
We need to take him into an operation theater tomorrow. And post that, after a week of recovery, we have to go down the whole chemotherapy route. So just imagine this, morning, and then suddenly in the afternoon you're hearing these things. So it was that fast. So it was too much to handle. It was just too much to handle. And again, and this is speaking for anyone who's seen this in their family, or if they've survived this also, if they've dealt with cancer themselves. It just, it's a constant fight. It's a constant battle. And when you look back, you feel like, how did I have the strength
To deal.
back then to kind of deal with this? But I think we all have the strength in us. I think more than anything, it's my son.
Yeah.
Due credit. Everything aside, the family, it's him and his resilience. And that's the thing with kids. This is something I written in my book also. Kids just, they don't let this weigh them down mentally or emotionally. He used to take his chemotherapy, probably cry because there was stuff that's jabbed in him. Next moment, in 5 minutes, he's playing with a toy. So I think that's why also I believe that there is this recovery rate for kids, because they don't let it bog them down.
Yeah.
They don't let that emotion that weigh them down. in the sense that many adults do. We're constantly weighed down with these thoughts and these concepts
It's in the
of
mind,
the illness.
right?
It's the mind,
Yeah.
right? And a kid, certain ignorance, and they don't know any better, I think that helps them bounce back. I think that helped him bounce back. And we learned a lot from that.
Yeah.
It's like our problems are so minuscule.
Yeah.
See how this kid is.
And he's just laughing and playing.
Yeah.
So what did it teach you about life? You know, when you said that, look at the delta. We were enjoying a Sunday brunch
Yeah.
and pizza.
Yeah.
And in 3 hours, we
Yeah.
figure out that this is what has happened to
Yeah.
all of us. And then you go into the entire process of it, and then it lasts for 5 years. So
Yeah.
at one moment you're just happy and without this information, and
Yeah.
the next moment you're dealing with this. So
Yeah.
what did it teach you about life?
Well, it's that old saying, if you want to make God laugh, tell him about your plans. So it's about the here and now. Just live it to the fullest, because you don't know what the future holds. You take these things for granted, and most of the times you take your family for granted because they're always there, right? Probably I was busy before that. I couldn't give so much time to the family, but then I made it a point that this is so important, because things in life are so fragile that you can't take anything for granted. Anything can happen at any point of time, and it doesn't come with a warning sign.
Yeah.
It didn't come with a warning sign back then.
Yeah.
So just make the most of it. You don't know what the future holds. Just try to be happy in the moment, in the present, and everything is right now. I think that's something I took away from that experience.
And how did your relationship with your wife progress through this diagnosis? Because this can also be so heavy on a relationship, right? When you're together dealing with something,
Yeah.
with a child that you love.
Yeah. I think she was a huge support system. Like, she's a pillar of strength that, and she was dealing with a lot of things on her own, mind you, because when I got everything set up, I took the family. We have our relatives in Canada. I set everything up over there. She also has, she has a immediate family there. And then I had to, because the treatment went on for 6 months, I had to come back to work because I had film commitments, because then there's life also, right?
Yeah.
There are these real world commitments that you have to address. And she was there alone with him. And I used to constantly be there on video call with them, sometimes fly back. But it was her. And Duke, credit everything to her, the way she handled it. She was very, very strong through the entire episode. Extremely strong, extremely resilient through the entire episode. Hats off, really.
And what about in an overarching way, this aside, how has the relationship evolved with you and your wife
But it just gets stronger.
over the time?
It just gets stronger. That bond gets stronger. This might have been a turbulent part of our lives,
Yeah.
but it's just that both of us, the way we fought it, the way we tackled it, it just brought us together even more so, emotionally, spiritually, in all ways. She also has a bit of a spiritual bent because she also wanted to find solace. She got into Reiki after that.
Yeah.
So there are these things, there are these events in your life that kind of, you start asking,
A lot of
more questions about, and try to find some kind of calm and tranquility in spirituality. So she found that in her path of Reiki. So she's an extremely calm person. And I remember the first time when we came to know about the diagnosis. We came back home, and it's about play acting and not showing your son that a certain situation has cropped up or there's anything wrong with him.
Yeah.
So we had to fight our tears. We actually had to go into a different room and just let it out, but never allow that to come in the front for our son to see. But then it was just that one day in the beginning when we got to know about it, and then that was like, we can't cry through this because we won't be able to tackle this issue. So that was it. There was that one time that we had probably let go.
Do you remember the day he was cancer free? When
Oh
they
yeah.
declared?
It's very funny. I was actually asking my wife on picture that I took. It was a very angelic image in the car when we left from the hospital the last day, and I was in the front seat, in the passenger seat, and I took a picture of her head and his head like this,
Oh.
and there's the sun rays streaming in from the window. I'm still trying to get that photograph, but that was the definitive photograph of that release and relief after the last treatment, because it had become so testing for him. What happens is, at least for him, the constant treatments every week, there was also this memory of, and once he came to the hospital, he used to start feeling ill the moment he entered the parking lot in the hospital.
Just by virtue of
By
like
the virtue of that, he used to
subconsciously.
actually feel that he could taste the medicine, and he used to vomit, he used to throw up in the parking lot.
Yeah.
So that was such a release and relief after that was done, that we had left that parking lot. We had never had to see that hospital again.
Yeah.
Although, the doctors and everyone over there was so sweet and supportive. They really were.
And do you still worry about, how that affects him, or whether he remember, like, do you still talk to him about it? About,
Oh, no.
No, not at all.
No.
That's
He's
not that.
he's 15 now.
Yeah.
Sometimes we asked him at home. It doesn't look like obviously somewhere it's embedded there in his subconscious, but we've not had that conversation. There's a book that's completely documented it.
Yeah.
I don't think he would want to read it. It's very painful.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd pick that book up again to read it.
Yeah.
Because that book also was like this release and therapy in a way,
Yeah.
to kind of document all that, and also put it in front of readers. God forbid someone goes through that issue. At least if there is something that they can take from this, that helps them on their journey or their fight. But he doesn't. He's a happy kid. He always was. He was back then also.
Yeah.
Very, very happy kid.
Yeah. What about friendships? How have they evolved with your journey from 2003 to now, in the industry, out of the industry? How have they evolved?
I wouldn't say I've got too many friends in the industry. It's a little tough to have friends in the industry.
Why?
Just the competitive streak of it. I think ultimately it's a need-based relationship, right? And that need is primarily your profession and work.
Yeah.
I can tell you one thing, that you could be best of friends after a Friday box office success, but that relationship could easily crumble if that thing goes on and you have a flop together. that relationship ends.
Yeah.
So you're serving the film. There's some, and don't get me wrong, there's some nice people in the industry. I'm fond of a lot of people, but I think it also depends on what your definition of friendship is.
So what's your
Hanging out with someone for no reason whatsoever and chilling,
Yeah.
is that. By default, if you're with someone in the industry, it's about work, it's about which films are doing well, not doing well, what it entails to make the film that you're doing at that point of time. That's a professional friendship. I wouldn't say that's the kind of thing where you understand each other without the baggage of films and work and profession.
Yeah.
So my group of friends, close-knit friends, I've known them from the age of, I would say, 4.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is from my locality in Bandra.
By locality in
Yeah,
Bandra.
yeah.
Okay.
So it's just that inner sanctum of friends from Pali Hill,
Yeah.
and from school, some of them that I have known back there from 2nd, 3rd standard. I think we kind of get each other because we've been through so many experiences, right? I don't know where probably this is not true for most people, but I think you can't really find any real friends beyond that whole college. When you pass out from college and when it's about work, it's you don't really find a friend. It's very difficult to make friends after that. Not that it's impossible, but for me at least.
So if these friends were watching this interview, what would they say about it? Or what would they say is true or false?
I think they would all say that's all true.
It's all true.
Yeah.
Okay. Do they call you out?
Oh,
Sometimes?
if you see us in a restaurant, it looks like this dysfunctional bunch of people sitting together and cracking jokes.
Yeah.
It really is. From the outside, I'm sure. But it all comes from a sense of camaraderie and affection and understanding each other for so many years. It's that backslapping kind of relationship that you can go out and say anything to these to them, and they understand where you're coming from. So they understand your mood swings. they know when to give you your space.
Yeah.
So they understand you in and out.
Yeah. That's a
Because
definition.
that comes out of this kind of almost a lifelong relationship.
Yeah, of
with them.
knowing you.
Of knowing you. Understanding your idiosyncrasies.
Yeah.
All of that comes from there.
You know, there's so much discussion about masculinity and what it means and what it doesn't mean. And, you know, typically when it's written or has been written that men are not as vulnerable or as emotional or are career focused and just all about that. And you've written a book, you've been extremely emotional, you talk about these things very openly.
Yeah.
What is your definition of masculinity today?
I think it comes from a point of strength, you know, playing the role of being a provider. It also comes from a sense of vulnerability also. I think it's wrong if you say that men can't be vulnerable. I think there's a strength in vulnerability also. I think that's very important. But yeah, I think these are the things that I feel are the pillars of being a man and being masculine.
Do you keep up with what's being said on social media? Not just
No.
about you, just generally. What are trends? What are some
Oh no,
catchwords?
please! I'm terrible at it.
Oh really?
I'm terrible at it. And I've actually made a very, very conscious effort. You know, sometimes it becomes like this very, very unconscious thing of constantly opening these 3-4 apps.
Yeah.
It could be a Twitter, or it could be a Instagram, Facebook. And I don't know anyone who goes on Facebook these days, but you're constantly floating around these two and seeing what's happening, and you can just completely let go of 2-3 hours looking at your feed.
More.
And and that's happened to me, and I'm like, this is definitely not good. So I try to kind of keep the usage to the minimal because it can really mess up your mind. There's fake news, there's the negativity and the trolling, and there's only as much as your mind can kind of absorb. You know, because the human mind is not conditioned to take in so much of the stresses from 4 corners of the world, right? Probably 30-40 years ago, it was about the vicinity and your inner sanctum of people and their problems and their issues, right? Right now, you're thinking about what's happening in Ukraine. You're thinking about what's happening on the other side of the world. And it's stressful. And you go on Instagram, there's so many things happening. There's so much of violent stuff that they put up on Instagram and Twitter also.
Yeah.
So, also, it's become a major task to kind of shield your kid from it. Because this is the world that we kind of grew to understand. Because being an 80s kid, I was born in 79.
Yeah.
So I've seen a life where there was no television set at home.
Yeah.
Till when there was black and white TVs, and then there was a few channels on Doordarshan, and then of course the social media explosion after 2005. But here's a generation that's born into this.
Yeah.
They, at the age of 2, they had an iPad and they were eating food looking at an iPad and switching through apps. So how do you wean them off that? That's the big question. You can't.
You can't.
It's a tall order. We've tried doing it. It's tough. It's very tough.
So we were just speaking to a doctor who specializes in parenting and childcare. He's a pediatrician for 30 years. And he said there was a study released last year that said children on average spend 7 hours a day on their screen. So
it's very funny you say this, because my son made sure he took all our phones when we told him to put his social media down. Yeah. He said, okay, if you're telling me to put my phone down, let me see how much time you've been on
screen time. Yeah.
And I was zapped because I was like probably close to his screen time.
Really?
Yeah. And my wife was close to his screen time. So it's like a hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Like we're doing it and we're telling our kids not to do it. So we've been very, very cognizant of it, and we're like, okay, now we got to take it down so that at least, we, through action, it's not what you tell them, right?
Yeah.
They will imbibe that by seeing what you do.
Yeah.
So we've tried to reduce that screen time.
Yeah.
But it's tough. It's tough. And I don't know what will happen with the new form with AI and stuff, of what that entails. That's a pretty no man's land situation right now. Yeah. It's going to become even more bizarre. And chaotic.
Yeah. I mean, we were just talking to this doctor, and firstly he said the same thing. He's like, my number one recommendation to parents struggling with screen time would be check your own screen time because they imbibe exactly what they're seeing at home.
Exactly.
And the second thing he said was learning and education is fundamentally going to change the next 10 years. Because everything that you had to study or remember by fact, there's a brain called AI just there. Like where it's there.
To do most of your work.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much of your own brain you're going to use because AI is doing most of the work for you. It's typing out your compositions for you, everything.
Yeah.
So it's pretty tough situation. I myself, I don't know how to navigate this.
Yeah.
Because you're putting these kids in an environment where they are taking everything down on their laptops and iPads. So that primarily is the devices through which they're doing their work.
Yeah.
So you've put them into the environment, and you're asking them to get out of it. That's kind of tough.
Yeah.
And it's so stimulating, right?
It is.
It's more stimulating than the real world out there.
Yeah.
So when he's sitting in a car, I'm like, get off your phone. There's a world outside. Look at the road. He's like, what's so great about the road outside? This is more stimulating. Yeah, and it's a fact.
But I use it all the time also. Like I'm on ChatGPT all the time.
You're on ChatGPT all the time?
All the time.
What do you do?
Research
and stuff.
Yeah, but if you prompt it, it can literally give you the most classified information.
Of course, yes.
And like distilled and made like crisp and to your liking. So I put a prompt the other day saying, I gave it like what I'm thinking of in terms of a script. And I said, can you write me something? And it wrote me 6,000 words in 15 minutes.
Wow.
Basis my like initial synopsis that I said, okay, this is the storyline that I'm
Wow.
6,000 words in 15 minutes. It was fantastic. It was insane.
Fantastic.
So things like that. But also like just to brainstorm. Like, the other day I found myself saying sorry to ChatGPT. I was like, it's getting a bit real.
No, we curated a trip the last time when you asked ChatGPT when you're going from so and so day to so and so day, you're traveling. You just curate your entire trip day by day and the time slots.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
You know,
otherwise you would sit there and spend the entire day researching that. And now here it is.
Yeah. So exactly. So fundamentally shifted and fundamentally moved.
Yeah. Completely.
Okay. So have you heard of some Gen Z terms when it comes to relationships?
I'm terrible at that.
Not at all. Because
I think my thing ends with LOL. That's pretty much it.
But you were quintessentially love or odd types of love in some of your films.
Yeah.
But all about that, right? And now it's about, what a situationship is, A
situationship.
Yeah.
It's about the dynamics in the relationship at that particular time.
Yeah, like you're in a situation, but it's not a relationship.
It's not.
But it's not a nothingness.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah. So many.
That's complex.
Yeah,
that's complicated.
Exactly. Or there's breadcrumbing. Have you heard of that?
There's nothing much in the relationship at that point of time for you. It's like they're giving you breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you're led to believe that there's something, but there isn't.
Yeah.
So it's like if it's a football game, you have a bench.
Yeah.
So it's also called benching.
Oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
For that reason.
I get it.
So, what is your idea of love? Now that I've given you the context of nowness, like what is your idea of
love? I think if you go down to the basics, it's how you feel around the people that you love, the sense of calm that you get, the sense of peace and tranquility you get around them, the feeling you get when you give that love to someone, and it's in different forms, But there's an underlying basis to everything. I think your love for your wife, your spouse, girlfriend, your mother, your father is very different. But I think in every sense, it is that sense of belonging with someone. The wife sense of companionship. I think that's what kind of, I would say, I derive everything from that.
And you've managed to stay together, have this amazing relationship that people adore. They actually, lots of things on the internet about that, by the way.
Oh, there is? Like what?
Yeah, like it's just sweet, and the way you are with your wife and your son. There's a lot of like family man things going on. So what do you think has kept you together all these years?
I think things evolve when you go down the route of marriage. It's not very easy. It's not an easy journey if you want to make it work. There are days where you have to make compromises, you have to make amends. We have seen this tumultuous,
Yeah.
turbulent time in our marriage. But it's only if there's an intent for it, it strengthens your relationship and your marriage even more. But that intent has to be there. I think like they always say, right? There's always this honeymoon phase
Yeah.
in relationships. There is this fiery, passionate phase in relationships, and common sense. I mean, if you see any relationship, there is that time when the honeymoon phase gets over. I think the test starts where you have to make that latter phase work. But then the understanding comes in, the loyalty, the trust, the compassion, and like I said, the intent to kind of make that marriage work. I think that's what's important. And understand that it evolves into something else. And you have to be open to that.
Yeah.
If you're constantly going to crave the first 2 years of your relationship with someone and that honeymoon phase, that's not going to be around, because that comes from a version of you in a relationship. When you get into a relationship, there's always a version of you that you're projecting in a relationship. It might not be the real you sometimes, most of the times, because you're pitching the best version of yourself.
You want them to like you.
You want them to like you, right?
Yeah.
What happens after that is when sometimes the real person comes out, and you have to be okay with that. You have to be accepting to that.
Yeah.
The element of newness fades, and yeah, again, you have to be okay for that also.
And how do you work out when you're either in a disagreement or you have a fight or argument? How do you resolve it?
Well, I have this very irritating thing of laughing or smiling my way through fights.
Really?
And that gets to her.
It would
So
get there.
I don't take most of the fights seriously, because I know that this is going to patch up. So I don't waste my time. But she's maybe watching this, so she's going to like obviously yell at me. But she does take it to heart for the time being. But I'm the kind of bomb diffuser. I'm the guy who's kind of just, okay, chill, why are you wasting this moment? Because in the next few hours, you're going to be fine. Even if this goes on for a day, you're going to be upset with me until tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're going to find a way around this. So just why are you losing this moment?
Yeah.
So I'm the opposite extreme, So I'm constantly diffusing the situation. Nothing sways me, and that irritates her. It's like, how can you not get affected by this? So this is how I've become, probably. But I don't think anything is worth breaking a sweat over. I think everything can be resolved if you want to be together.
But that's so tough to do, right? In the situation, it's like very chaotic, or just like.
I don't think anything is that chaotic, really. You can, if you have an intent to correct things and have an end goal for solace, and to find a middle ground in anything. Because see, in relationships, there are two individuals. You're going to have different likes, tastes, opinions, and you have to be okay with that different opinion about things, right? So it's okay. I might be in my place, I beg to differ, but then I think I respect someone else's kind of belief system and where they come from. And I also understand where she's coming from when she's angry. I understand that. So I think that's where I feel we end up diffusing the situation.
Do you ever get angry?
Good question. I do, but not very often.
Okay.
I'm a kind of guy who's always somewhere on a baseline emotion.
Yeah.
Sometimes people see me as a little detached. I don't know, although I'm not. But yeah, I think I don't get that angry. I think nothing is worth getting that angry over.
What can anger you, potentially?
What can anger me? Okay, small things like people honking on the road. That gets to me.
Okay.
Are you talking about a relationship or generally in life?
Like,
that gets to me.
Or like
Yeah,
people honking.
that
Yeah.
indiscipline,
Yeah.
lack of civic sense. That gets to me. Like, that really gets to me.
So how do you, like, it's fleeting?
I
it's
implode.
permanent. Oh, you do? Okay.
I just keep it in myself.
Yeah.
I don't vent it out on someone else.
Yeah.
I just take it in and I'm like, okay. You're a bit of a stress ball when you're on the road
Yeah.
in the city. It is stressful when you're living in an urban environment like Bombay city. But it's a city you love, and you belong here, and it's home, and family and friends are here. So,
Yeah.
But it does get chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, honking here would be pretty.
Oh my God, it just gets to me. It gets to
Yeah.
me. It gets to me. And the constant digging now.
Yeah. Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah.
That gets to me.
Yeah.
Like there's no infrastructure and you've dug up every second road.
But
in
there's
the
no like
city.
phases. You know, everything is being dug up at the same time.
At the same time.
Yeah.
At the
Everywhere.
same time.
Yeah.
But they will dig it up,
Hmm.
they'll put it back together, and then they'll tear it apart again after a few days.
Hmm.
To do what? I don't know. I don't think anyone's figured it out. I don't think they also know what they're doing.
Yeah. Nobody knows.
So it's just functions. It's just surviving somehow.
Yeah.
The city.
And you live to love the city. Anyhow.
Live to love the city.
We're almost at the end. What are the next 5 years looking like in terms of just what you want to be, where you want to be at, not just in terms of work, but things that you want to do for yourself outside of work, with family, friends?
I want to be the best father, best husband, best son, best friend that I can. And yeah, as far as my career goes, I just still that hunger to do different characters, taking on something that's challenging, taking on something that makes me a bundle of nerves. Like, okay. And I always feel that when I take up a character that I feel I've bitten off more than I can chew, I'm like, okay, that's the kind of character that I want to play next. Or 5 years down the line, more films of that nature and genres. Things that scare me. I think if you don't find that prospect scary when you read that character on the page and like, okay, I don't know if I'm up to this.
Yeah.
That fear drives me to do those characters. It did for Ground Zero also. Like, okay, how am I going to play this character and put it up there? But then therein lies the challenge, and of course I had the support system of everyone at Excel, my director. Those are the kind of films I want to do. And I want to play characters in different genres, in all kinds of genres. Yeah, that's my...
Anything else interesting? You know, we asked this question, do you have a skill that nobody knows about? And we've had some fun answers. Is there something that you do?
I'm an avid video gamer.
Oh,
I don't know
wow.
if people know it.
Really?
I can actually go on and game for 6 hours a day. Speaking of being addicted to devices, that's something that I've had to stay clear of.
Really?
Yeah, that's something.
Like you
I've
just
not done it for a while now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm quite an addictive gamer
Wow.
by nature.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sure that's something people didn't know.
Yeah, they don't. I've not spoken too much about it.
Okay. Last question. So many of our viewers love your journey, everything that comes with it. You're fairly more loved. Let's just say, like the conversation around you is very positive. What advice would you give people on navigating life? You know, because challenges as they are come to everybody, and how would you ask them to navigate it?
Just face them head on. I think everyone's life, you're going to have challenges that are thrown to you. A lot of people will come on board to give you advice. Take some of it and chuck most of it out of the window, because most of the advice anyways comes with a certain agenda.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's that real world experience that only you can experience. No one's walking in your shoes. So make the most of life, live in the present. Yeah, that's what I would say. Just try to live in that moment, which is easier said than done. Living in that present moment and just kind of extracting everything from life and just facing it head on.
Okay. Thank you so much, Emraan. It's been lovely and just so much to learn. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for being the best community, and we'll see you in the next one.